So we talked about multimedia. What are different types of multimedia that you can use for your writing or presentations? You guys have an informative text that you need to do or need to complete. And we're going to be doing that through multimedia. Someone give me an example of multimedia. Ali said videos. What's another one? Lorana said slideshows. Okay, so PowerPoint presentations. What else? Is social media multimedia? Yes, right? So sometimes you may be stuck on a topic at school and maybe your parents don't have much knowledge about the topic. What can you do to learn?
Search it up.
On?
Website.
Right, so you can use YouTube, for example. Is YouTube multimedia?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But
Can people put text in like on YouTube videos?
I don't really think that like YouTube is a church.
Is it? Yes. Okay. We'll talk about that in a second though. But I'm just asking for different forms of multimedia. Okay. Is YouTube an example of multimedia?
Yes.
Yes. Is TikTok an example of multimedia?
No.
Yes. Right. A lot of people learned about Palestine from TikTok. Right. A lot of people learned about Islam because of TikTok.
Twitter.
Right.
Facebook.
Is it age appropriate for you guys? I don't agree.
No.
I don't think you guys should be on there. But I'm saying, is it a form of multimedia? Absolutely. YouTube is a form of multimedia. Documentaries are a form of multimedia. Can we include text in these different types of multimedia? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. They could be slideshows in a video that show different things, right? On many videos on YouTube include text and information that you can actually read. Now, in my opinion, if you're presenting a certain topic and using YouTube, for example, in my opinion, I think that people should focus more on the visual than the words. Yes, you may have some words, but it's important to relay that information as short as possible. Okay, make it concise and short. Okay, that is a skill to have. So remember yesterday when we were talking about bullet points and summarizing? Okay, so instead of having a long sentence, you can bullet point with the main idea, and the reader is still able to understand what you're trying to say. Does that make sense? And that's also a skill that you're going to need for the next, I don't know, 12 years in your in the world of academia. Okay, if you have a test and you have a professor, right, you're in college and your professor's going over a certain topic, it is important that you know how to bullet point, because you're not going to catch every single word they say, correct? So you summarize and you get the main idea of what that person is trying to tell you. Okay, so right now we're going to look at it's not a PowerPoint, but it's a slideshow. And this slideshow's topic is about the 1950s. Okay, I want you guys to focus on the visual and the text that is used in this slideshow. We need to stop talking. I need you guys to focus. Okay? All right. So as you guys can see here, the first slide says rocking 1950s. Now you as the reader, okay, you, the audience, when you see this presentation, what do you think is the main idea of the slideshow?
Clothes of 1950s?
Something more broad. Yes, the 1950s, right? It's a very we don't know anything about what the presentation is going to look like, right? We just see people dressed in a certain way or cartoons dressed in a certain way. And we know that it's going to be about the 1950s for sure. Is it going to be about the 1920s?
No.
Probably not. It's going to be about the 1950s. How do we know? Because of the title. Okay? When you take a look at any multimedia or any text, the title will indicate what the main idea is. Okay? So if my title is monkeys, okay, do you think my text or multimedia will be about fish?
No.
The information that's going to be presented in this multimedia will be about fish? No, it's going to pertain to the main idea. Okay? So the title is one of the elements of an informative text. Okay? So it says here, rockin' 1950s. Now, did they just write a boring title and say 1950s?
No.
No, they made it unique. They made it what?
Grabbing.
Yes, they're grabbing the attention of the audience. Ooh, rockin' 1950s. It sounds kind of fun, right? Did they use a plain old photo from the 1950s, or did they make it a fun one?
Made it a fun one.
Yeah. So it's cartoons, right? And then you can see all the different outfits that they wore in the 1950s. So they wore, they had the roller skates, they had these little dresses with the dogs on them. That was part of the style in the 1950s. Okay, now this is the second slide. Okay, these are actual people. Okay, and I want you guys to look at the text. Okay, there's not a lot of text in this slide. Is it overwhelming or is it concise? Yes, it's straight to the point, gets the point across. But what are you relying most as the audience, as the reader? The pictures. They're grabbing your attention more. So you're like, ooh. So they had this specific hairstyle. They probably like gelled it back, right? That's how you know that they lived in the 1950s. They wore leather jackets. Do you see people dressed like that now? No.
I mean, kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes they try to bring back the style of the 1950s, but for the most part, most people don't dress like that now, right? So they wore leather jackets. You can see here they're wearing, he's wearing Converse. This was the style for girls. So she's wearing a skirt with the poodle on it. That's why when you see costumes, so Party City closed down, but when they had the costumes for the 1950s, what did they have? They had this as one of the girl costumes, was that poodle on the skirt. It's usually a pink skirt, okay? And I think a white shirt as well. So here's the text. Who can read the text for me?
Me.
Yes, Ian.
Boys in the 50s wore rolled jeans, high tops, leather jackets, and slick back hair. Girls in the 50s wore poodle skirts, saddle shoes, bobby socks, and Letterman's sweaters.
Yes. So without even reading this text, were you able to understand that information? Yeah, it's visual. You can see it, right? So you put the text in your multimedia, but you make it very concise, okay? Clear, simple, boom, right? There's not a lot of text. It's not taking up the whole slide, or just a little bit, okay? That is a skill that you should have when presenting a topic using multimedia. You have a question? Let's hold on. We'll take it one at a time, okay? Shams, do you have a question? Okay, give me a second, okay? So this is the second slide. Let's not read yet, okay? Remember, one of the skills to have when presenting multimedia is to have visuals that speak for themselves, okay? Don't look at the text. I don't want you to look at the text. What can you see visually?
An old car. 1950s.
Okay, you see a specific car, okay? What else? Roller skates. So you can kind of understand that roller skates are a common theme, right? Because you saw it in the first slide, and then you see it again in the second slide. So you're like, oh, maybe. So I think roller skates were pretty popular then, right? And then what do you see here on the bottom? Another car, right? A bike. Okay. So let's read this slide. Shams, can you read the first sentence for me?
Cars in the 50s look a little different than cars today. Many of them were bright colors like turquoise or pink.
Yes. So cars in the 50s look different from the cars today. Many of them were bright. They had colors like turquoise and pink. Okay. Do you see bright colors like this today? No. So does this indicate that during that time there was something unique about their cars? Yes. Okay. So we can already take away the information that yes, the cars were bright and they looked in this way, right? So what type of car is this? Who's good at cars? Muhammad, what do you think? What car is this?
That might be a
Mustang?
No, I don't think
No.
it's a Chevy.
It's a Chevy?
It might be a
Okay.
Shelby.
Yeah. So people who actually know more about cars will know, okay, this is a car from the 50s. But since you guys are not aware about cars, not all of you are aware about what the cars look like in the 50s, that person's giving you a visual. So the author of this slideshow is giving you a visual.
Yeah, because
Yes.
I saw something.
Most people know that cars in the cars in the old days used to be short and they used to be long.
Yeah, yeah. Ali?
And you up by like any old car around the wheels, they have a white.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you're a car expert. Go ahead. Yes, you.
And that car right there is from the 1960s.
Yeah.
And 70s.
So it's not from the
No,
50s.
50s.
Okay.
That one up there is 50s.
But do you
That
think
one-
maybe it started in the 50s?
Yeah, it started way back, like
So-
1930s.
So maybe you didn't know that, okay, this car was they started making this in the 50s. So what do you know now as an audience, as a reader? That this car existed in the 1950s. Muhammad, can you read this sentence for me?
Yeah. Kids in the 50s couldn't drive, but they liked to get around on their roller skates or bicycles.
So what can you take away from this? Remember, is the text overwhelming?
No.
No. It's what?
It's quick.
It's quick,
Grab
it's
it.
short, and it gets to the point. Okay? What did kids do
They
during the 1950s? They relied on
bikes and roller skates.
and roller skates. Do we see that now? To
No.
be honest with you, do we?
A little.
No, guys, be
High
honest.
schools, yeah.
Do you see people, children in roller skates? And this has to do with how the generations have changed. Okay, how crime rate has increased. Okay, do your parents trust you enough to go in the neighborhood with your roller skates?
In my neighborhood, yeah, but
In my neighborhood, yeah.
Yeah, like in my
if the
street,
neighborhood
yeah.
is big, I would.
By yourself?
Like in
Yeah,
my
but
street,
yeah,
yeah,
I can
do
do
it.
it.
I can do it. I really like most see now.
I go on
And that's not to say that crime didn't exist in the 1950s, but
did.
crime has increased.
But now,
Okay, nevertheless, crime has increased.
Like now I see.
Adults have become more aware that, oh, it's probably not a good idea to let our children do stuff like that,
Especially
right?
the children.
Exactly, exactly.
But now-
So we have more responsibility in our society, and then we also have a higher crime rate. We're not gonna get into the, the details, but you can see that, yes, people were out and about, children were in roller skates, and they relied on that for getting around, as well as bicycles. Okay, let's move on to the next slide.
Okay, that's
Okay,
That's a class.
Yes, science.
what do you see here
No,
visually?
that's a coffee.
A classroom.
No, it's a coffee. It's at the end. It's a cafe. It's a cafe, yeah. Cause look at the
Cafeteria. It's a
Do you,
cafeteria.
okay, first of all, raise your hands. I don't want you guys screaming out loud.
It's a bar.
It's not a bar. It's not a bar. Okay. Farhan, what do you visually see?
It's like a cafe shop or something.
It looks like a shop where there's drinks, right?
Photoshop.
Okay, but so you read that, but what do you see visually?
There's drinks.
People are gathering around, probably having a good time, okay? You see in a picture
It's a soda
here,
shop.
they're kind of dancing, right? They're having a good time. You have a little girl here who's drinking something. Okay, now, who wants to read the text?
Me.
So with this visual, you guys are a little confused, maybe not clear on what this image is. Rana, can you read it for me?
In the 50s, soda shops were popular hangout spots for people of all ages. They had good music, soda pop, and ice cream. A 1950 favorite was the root beer float.
Good. So one of you guys said this is a bar. So would you have guessed that this is a soda shop?
No.
Probably not. Why?
It looks like a bar.
Do we have soda shops now?
Yes.
No, we don't. We don't.
We're factories.
So this is why the visual was hard for you guys to understand. So therefore, hold on a second. So therefore you had to rely on what to understand the information? What did you have to rely on?
The text.
The text. Okay. Is the text overwhelming?
No.
No. It's concise, straight to the point. It tells you that it's a soda shop and that people went there to get ice cream and they had a famous drink. What was that drink called? Root beer. Okay. So you see this little girl here who's sitting down having a fun time. What is she drinking?
Root beer.
Root beer. Okay. Have you guys ever had root beer before? It's not really, it's out there. So it is in the supermarkets, but people don't really drink it. It's a really yummy drink.
It's
It
not
tastes
haram,
like,
though.
it's not haram. It's not beer. It's called root beer, but it's not beer. It tastes like a vanilla drink. It's really good. It's like a ginger ale vanilla type of thing.
I had root beer like the soda can. Yeah, it's like
Some of
Dr.
them come in a soda can.
It's like Dr.
Oh, like
Pepper.
H&M root beer, right? No.
I have no idea what that is.
That's what
Okay, guys, we need to raise our hands before we talk. Okay, so with this specific slide, we had to rely on the text to fully understand what's going on. Okay, so a lot of you guys had really negative things to say about the photo, but we see a child, so yes, it's a soda shop. And why are you guys not familiar? Because you've never seen anything like that before. You've never heard of something like that before. So the slide has the information for you. So it's straight to the point. You get to read the slide and now you learn new information. What did you guys learn right now? Raise your hand. Hamza? Yeah. Yeah.
And it was
Does that look fun to you?
Yeah.
Looks kind of fun. So maybe we're not having as much fun as the people in the 1950s. That's what I can conclude, right? Let's move on to the next slide. Yes, Amina. They were just having a good time,
Yeah.
right?
because there's music.
And again, you guys, I know as Muslims, you probably can't relate, right? Because we have a separation between males and females, and we don't really do stuff like that. But again, this is American culture, and you're learning about a certain time period and what people did. Yes.
You see that picture over there? The McDonald's picture?
Yep.
There's an actual McDonald's. That McDonald's is still there in America.
Yeah.
Really?
I think it's the cheapest.
It's the oldest
and
McDonald's.
It tastes the exact same.
No,
as
it's one of the most expensive.
It's one of the
No,
most.
it's not.
It is.
Yes.
What do you know? Which state?
They
Yeah,
have
it's
a
in-
whole museum.
Yeah, it's like in
Okay.
Minnesota.
All right, we gotta raise our hand, guys, before we speak. Let's take a look at this slide here. Okay. What do you visually see?
No. A drive-in.
You gotta raise your hand.
I see
Shamus.
a good.
A drive-in. We see that people are going in with their cars, and maybe people are coming out to bring them their food. Does anyone know something similar to that? Sonic, yeah. Sonic is a drive-in. And Sonic has a 1950 vibes, right? It's like a 1950s. Exactly.
This.
Okay.
There's a
Yes.
there's a connection between like now us here and over there. That like the store.
Yeah.
Like let's say when we stop at our cars, they're newer generation cars, and like the stores are newer generation.
Yeah.
But still it's like the same.
Yeah. So it derived from the 1950s. Yes.
But we also saw a drive-thru.
Right. So let's focus on this slide, guys. So you see a drive-in, you see McDonald's. What do you see here? It's also another what? Raise your hand. This one here, the second photo.
I think that's a gas station. No, that's a church.
Amina. Yeah,
I think
with the white car. It's a movie theater. And what type of movie theater?
Car movie.
Yeah, drive-in. Good. Yeah. So what's a common theme that we see thus far? They really like drive-ins, right? They like drive-ins, right? What type of car is this, Muhammad?
That.
Yeah,
That looks like a Shelby.
it's a Chrysler.
The other one.
This is the Chrysler. Yeah, it has the
Look at the
Chrysler
back.
sign.
Look at the back. That's
Yeah, and
I can-
is that a bright color that we see?
Oh, that's an Arabella. The small baby ones are
Yeah,
Arabellas.
those are Arbellas. Okay. All right, who wants to read the text for me?
Me.
Fatima.
Another popular 50s hangout was the drive-in. You could drive up to a movie and watch from your car, or drive up to a restaurant, car hop,
Nice.
and a car.
I'm sorry, Fatima. I was talking to a student. Can you say it one more time, honey?
Another popular 50s hangout was the drive-in. You could drive up to a movie and watch from your car, or drive up to a restaurant and a car hop would bring you your.
Now, did we have to see the text to understand what the visuals are trying to say? Okay, that is a skill when you're presenting, right? You're creating the multimedia for your audience, is to create visuals that have these powerful meanings that the audience or the reader can actually understand what you want to say without saying it yet. Okay, now the text, yes, it's reiterating what you're trying to say by using these visuals, but again, the text needs to be what? What does the text need to be?
It needs to be short and right to the point.
Right to the point, concise. Yes. What's a what? A car hop.
Isn't it like
Yes. Correct. So we can see here there's Mel's, that's a restaurant, and then we have McDonald's, that's another restaurant, right? Fast food. And then we have, go ahead. And then we have the different movie drive-ins. Yes. So we can tell that in the 1950s, they really liked drive-ins.
I bet those songs.
Okay.
Oh my bro.
All right. Now, without looking at the text, okay, let's take a look at this here. It says, fascinating ant farm. You take the farm, we mail the ants. So you see live ants. I can't really see what that says. It says dig something, build bridges, move something. We can't really see the text. Can you guys see the text? I can't see it.
No.
And then it says unbreakable, escape proof, fun for the whole family. Ant farm. You take the farm, we mail the ants. See live ants. So what can we take away from this photo? What do they do for fun?
They like looking
Yeah,
at ants.
they like looking at ants. Okay. So Can you relate to this?
No.
Probably not.
I mean, kind of.
Probably not. Have you been to an ant farm?
Yes.
I think you've been to like a apple picking farm,
Yeah, of course.
right? Or maybe a strawberry picking
Yes,
farm.
of course.
Have you been to an ant farm, Farhan?
No.
Probably not. Okay. So what was like the thing for families to do?
Look at ants.
Go to ant farms and look at ants. And it says here, you take them and we mail them. So I guess they gave you ants to bring home
I
with
think
you.
they build
Just like when you go apple picking and you bring home the apples. This is like a similar concept. It's unfamiliar to you guys because you cannot relate. So this photo is interesting for you guys. Okay? Now, guys, we need to raise our hand before we speak. Okay? Now, what do you see in this photo here with the children kind of just... Okay, what is a telephone booth? It's a booth with a telephone. Can you relate to this?
Yes.
Why? Do these exist anymore?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Do we see these all the time?
No.
Probably not. But you can tell that it's a phone booth because it says the word telephone. Do we need to rely on the text to understand what's going on in the images?
Yes.
Do we need to read the text?
What they're doing.
Okay. But you know that it's a telephone booth. Yes. No, 5th grade. Here. Yes. Okay. Now, what do you see in this image? What do you see in that image?
I know. Hula hoops.
Okay, first of all, raise your hands. Hamza.
It looks like a sport.
It looks like a sport. Are they children or adults? Children.
Oh,
Okay. Now, without looking at the text, what can you say about that image?
I see like a
Fatima.
It looks like they're
Okay, it looks like they're hula hooping. So you would assume that this was a sport that they took part in the 1950s, right? Would you assume that as the audience?
Yeah.
As the reader? Yeah. Now, let's take a look at the text. Yeah, Yaqub, go ahead.
A fad is something that is popular for a short amount of time. Some fads in the 1950s were ant farmers, hula hooping, and phone booth stuffing, which was when kids would see how many people they could fit inside a telephone booth.
Does that answer your question, Nana? Okay. So again, you as the audience, you see the image, you make your assumptions, okay? What is a tool that you need to have, or what is a skill that you need to have when you're presenting your multimedia? Hamza. Good pictures, okay? We understand it's a telephone booth, but we can't quite understand why they're stacked up like that. But what does the text do for you as the reader? It makes you understand what? What is it? Why are they stacked up like that?
Because they want to see how much people they can fit.
Was that is that a what is that called?
It's like a tradition.
It's called a fad, okay? And it was something that they did for fun during a certain amount of time, okay? Did you guys know what fad meant before this presentation? I would say most of you didn't understand what a fad was, okay? Did you know what phone stuffing was?
Yeah.
Phone booth stuffing?
I
No.
don't know.
So they played a game, these children played a game to try to see how many kids would fit in the phone booth. Hold on 1 second, okay? So we learned that in the 1950s, there were these fads and they liked to go to ant farms for fun. We also learned that hula hooping was a sport, right? Do we see these things today? No. Okay, we don't go to ant farms, we go to apple picking farms. We don't do hula hooping for a sport, we do other sports. We don't have telephone booths, so therefore we don't have the stacking up in the telephone booth.
Sometimes we do. No, in England,
Right?
In England they have it.
But they don't do that. I don't think they do this, right? That was an American thing. Okay, we gotta raise our hand before we speak. Okay? Now, let's reiterate. What does your text need to be like in your multimedia presentation? Let's repeat it again. What does it need to be like?
Straight to descriptive and it needs to have real information.
I know.
Okay. But what did I say over and over and over? Okay, so short, Ali, straight to the point, right? Should it be overwhelming?
No.
Should I have a slide where half of it is just text?
No.
No. One sentence, maybe two maximum, right? I want you guys to present photos where the reader is able to understand the material, what you're trying to say, without actually using a lot of words. That is a skill that you're going to need to have for the rest of your life in academia. even when you're in college, right? When you give these presentations on a certain topic, you need to have photos that speak for themselves. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Ronnie, you have a question? Give me a second. You have a question?
Yeah, how would they get out of the telephone?
That I don't know. I think they would need adults to help them. Yakub.
In that other text,
Yeah,
farm is spelled wrong.
they did spell it incorrectly. You're right. You're right. Thank you for taking note. Amina.
When they took the ants home,
They probably had them like in like a box or something where they sat there and looked at them and they found them to be fascinating because clearly families went on these trips to see ants. So they found them to be fascinating. Do we find ants fascinating now?
never.
No. Right? Okay. All right, let's move on to the next slide. Again, I'm not going to say it again. You need to raise your hand before you speak. Okay. We see here this first photo. What is this? It's a Barbie. We all know who Barbie is, okay? Does the Barbie look different from the Barbie we see today?
Yes.
Yeah. She's wearing a black and white dress with she has sunglasses. Her hairstyle is quite different. So that indicates that the hairstyle was different from what we see today, right? The Barbies we see today, their hair is what? Straight, right? So we can see that the Barbie is mimicking what the people look like in the 1950s. So her hair looks like she's in the 1950s. What do we see here? This black and white photo.
Oh, they're playing
It's called a frisbee. Yes, so it's called a frisbee. Does everyone know what a frisbee is?
Yes.
Do we use frisbees now?
Yes.
Okay, so you guys can relate to this. So you guys, you see the photo? Oh, I know this one. It's a frisbee. Do you need to look at the text? No. Okay, so it's a strong visual. We know that in the 1950s, because what is the main idea of this multimedia? It's again is it about the 1920s?
No.
Is it about 2005? What is it about? Raise your hand. The 1950s. So we know that, okay, they like to play frisbee in the 1950s. Did you know that?
Yes.
No, so now you know. No, did you know that they played frisbee in the 1950s?
Because it was vital.
Okay. But most people wouldn't know that. Okay. What do we have here? This toy here. A slinky. Does everyone know what a slinky is?
Yes.
Okay. So again, pertaining to the slides, what can you say about this photo that they used? They used slinkies in the 1950s. Excellent. Now, what do you see here?
Play-Doh.
What does the box say?
The
The original Play-Doh. Modeling, compound, clean, non-toxic. Okay? So when there's a text that says the original, what does that mean?
That means
It's the first.
It's probably one of the first, right? So it's probably when Play-Doh was first created.
1950.
Okay, let's go back to the text now. Now that we looked at the visuals, okay, it's more than one. Let's go to the text. Farhan, read it for me.
Do you recognize any of these fun toys? They became popular in the 1950s. The first Barbie was introduced in 1954. Play-Doh started as a way for people to clean their walls.
Oh, I know.
Did you know that?
Yes, I didn't know because
Okay, let's
Play-Doh-
raise our hand. Let's raise our hand. Did you know that Play-Doh was used in the 1950s to clean your walls?
No.
How?
Yeah.
You did know that?
I do.
And they
Would
also-
most people know that? Does Miss Mona know that?
No.
No. Okay. So therefore, you're giving off this information in your presentation that the readers may not know. Okay. You saw the visual. You understand that. Oh, okay. So it says the original Play-Doh. It says non-toxic, clean. Why does it say clean? But then you read the text, and the text gives you more information about the visuals that you're presenting. Okay. Now the Slinky was a toy that they used in the 1950s, and we still know it today, and you can recognize that. Okay. Did you know that the first Barbie was created in the 1950s?
Yes.
No.
I didn't know that, right? Now, do you know it?
Yes.
Yes. So if anybody asked you, in, kids conversation, hey, did you know that the first Barbie that was created was in the 1950s, especially in 1954? As if you guys would talk about that, right? Okay, now, moving on to the next slide. What do we see here in the first image? Who's this?
Jukeboxes.
You gotta raise your hand. Who is this? Elvis Presley. Okay, he's a famous what? Singer, right? Everybody knows who's Elvis Presley, right? Most people know who he is.
I don't know who he is.
He's known for his music, right? Just like Michael Jackson, right? He's one of the famous singers, okay? What do we see here? Anyone know what that is?
Yeah, a jukebox.
It's a music box.
Yeah, music box.
Okay, good.
They still have it in those old Sonic.
Okay, anyone? Okay, we can see that they're dancing. Again, what is she wearing? She's wearing the poodle dress. Remember that poodle dress was popular in the 1950s? And how is this man's hair?
Slick back.
Slick back, right? Like I said, they probably use gel to slick back their hair. And lastly, what is that photo we see there?
Which one?
Raise your hand, raise your
That's
hand.
the old CD.
Raise your hand. Hamza.
No,
No, it's a disc.
It's a
Yeah, it's a
disc.
disc, yeah.
Okay.
I thought that was for the Pampers.
Okay. So maybe you do know what this image is, maybe you don't know what this image is. So if you know what this image is, great. If you don't know what the image is, what are you relying on to get your information? The text. What do you have to do as a writer when you're presenting information to an audience about a topic that they may or may not know? You have to include the details of what you presented. So let's read the sentence here. Who wants to read? Sammy.
Music is a huge part music was a huge part of the 1950s. Many singers become popular like Elvis Presley. Children listen to music on the radio player,
A record player.
a record player by a
Or a jukebox.
jukebox, and a dance to their favorite song to sock hop.
At sock hops. Good. Okay. Now, we now know that this is called a... No.
jukebox.
Let's go back. It says record player. Okay. So this is a record player. So they used to have CDs where they put it on like this thing that goes around and it plays the music for you. So now do you know what it's called?
Yes.
Why? Because the writer did what? Included the details for you. Was the writer overwhelming with their text?
No.
It was what? Raise your hand.
Straight to the point.
Straight to the point, concise. Okay, I want you guys to use the word concise. Okay, and it's detailed. Did the author use more than 2 sentences?
Yeah.
No,
What? No.
it was 2 sentences.
Yeah.
1, 2.
Oh.
Right? Concise, short, straight to the point. And it gives you all the information you need to know.
Wait, you actually.
Okay? Now, what do you see in this slide here?
Pictures.
Of?
Lady.
Okay. And you see 2 people dancing here. What does his hair look like? Can you tell?
Oh, slick back.
It's slicked back. So again, the common theme is the...
Slick back hair.
Okay. And then you also see that she's dancing. This is called the jive and twist. Who can read?
Let's hand jive and twist. These are just a couple of examples of popular dances in the 1950s. No, they did not know how to whip and nay-nay. Let's learn a few moves before we head to our very own sock hop.
Right. So they're making they're giving the terms of what the dances that children do today, right? The whip and the nay-nay, right? That's pretty popular. Okay, or it was a few years ago. But what was a popular dance that they did back then in the 1950s? Yes, the jive and twist. Are we all educated about the 1950s?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Do we now know how to present our information using visuals, strong visuals, and concise text? Yes. So what is our task now? Okay. I will not give you this assignment until we are comfortable with making our own presentations together. So we will start our presentation together and we will be presenting the US government and its 3 branches. Okay. So we have our PowerPoint open. Okay. Okay, we're gonna title it as the US government. Okay. Give me 1 minute, guys. Give me 1 minute. 1 minute. Okay. So what are we gonna have on our first slide? Similar to the slide that we just saw. Fatima.
The USA government.
We could say the United States government. I don't like to use abbreviations when it comes to the world of academia. It doesn't seem
Like
formal to me. Okay. So when you're in school and you're if you're doing this on like YouTube for fun, yeah, you can abbreviate. But when you're in school, what do you want to use?
full sentences.
Full sentences, full words, correct spelling, the United States government. Do we need to title, do we need to capitalize the title?
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay. Now, we started our PowerPoint. We're going to finish it tomorrow. Okay. I want you guys to go home and research the 3 branches of government. I want you to become more comfortable. Maybe to take a look at different images and give me ideas for tomorrow that indicate how we will use these visuals with less writing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, snack time or rest time.